It is, again, the third day of August 2024. This is the second video today that I said that. Hope everybody's doing good on this beautiful summer's day. We have a big poll for everybody tonight. Is the nuclear terrorists in the Australian nuclear power industry a genocide machine? Consider 90% of the nuclear plants are surrounded by farms. Well, yes it is, Dana. And that's quite an interesting poll when you think about it. A company aims to power the world for millions of years by digging the deepest holes ever. It's known as geothermal. The company is Quatsi Electric. There's quite a few companies out there, and they got new techniques so you can drill deeper, faster. Aims to use X-rays to melt rocks and repurpose coal and gas plants into deep geothermal power plants, effectively transforming dirty fossil fuels into clean ones. You can do gas, oil, coal, nuclear plants. Just banish them to... this industry shouldn't exist. This is eco-terrorism on a scale that will terrify the average person. This is why they kept it hidden away for so long. Japan, of course, was a catastrophic event. It was a pulse event, and it poisoned the world's food chain. But on top of that, they're growing roughly 6 billion pounds of food in the nuclear wasteland and shipping it worldwide. It's like leukemia on your dinner plate, but it shows up months later. These reactors, they dwarf Chernobyl. This is a real event. This is real. We're in real trouble. We need to get our acts together. It's not very hard. Get educated. It don't take very long around this site. And so we're doing a show today on Saturday. Saturdays and Friday shows will be shorter shows than your typical 5 days a week. Which starts again tomorrow. Foliage and root uptake of different isotopes. And so this got to do with that poll tonight about why is almost every nuclear power plant surrounded? It's more than 90%. It's around 95%. I'm lowballing it just so they can't come back. If I say 99%, well, it's not quite 99. Foliage and root uptake of 134 cesium, 85 strontium, nasty isotope, and 65 zirconium, nasty isotopes, in tomato plants. So they know, they have all these studies, and we're talking millions, on food and radiation. So why would you have nuclear power plants surrounded by food when you have so much radiation? The fuel pools at these disease factories are hemorrhaging radiation into the environment. Go to the big screen because the gravity of this story is very real. Child's risk of cancer is actually 1,000 times more because you have mutated stem cells from their bones, their skeleton, and mutated hormones from their thyroid and their pituitary gland is going to be saturated with radioactive hormones forever. This is the worst thing that can happen to any species, let alone me and you. And it's not a game. Almost every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. This is not a game. This is an emergency. And anybody that's funding these things in the future will be charged with crimes against humanity, I would imagine, which should be going on for at least the last 80 years. This industry has no right to exist. It is your biggest nightmare, and it's got an 80-year lead on you. It's time to gut up. It's time. You got to gut up. This is not a game. They contaminate your fresh water and your oceans worldwide with every accident and just running sites. How low doses of radiation causes heart problems, liver problems, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, and then Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, and Down syndrome, schizophrenia. When you look at Alzheimer's and diabetes or autism and dementia, all of them typically got stage 3 diabetes. And so if you deal with stage 3 diabetes, you alleviate the dementia and the Alzheimer's, and which is, 6 out of 10 Fukushima children have diabetes. And the head of Tokyo Medical Clinic says that they're expecting diabetes. That's the gallows laugh. They're expecting diabetes in the children from Fukushima prefecture from the nuclear meltdowns. But guess what? They get you in your supermarkets too, see? If you're eating the same food or using the same oil, then what happens long term? It's not only that, you're being hammered worldwide. These plumes are created every day. This is the Fukushima plume after 19 hours, 19.5 days rather. This was a pulse event on top of that. This was the animosity equivalent of around 4,000 Chernobyls was released into the environment. And the reason there's so much in that inventory is because it's pure uranium, pure plutonium. And reactor 3 was a mixed oxide, plutonium mixed oxide reactor. At the top of the buildings are decades of reactor cores in the stupidest place conceivable. So the engineers that created this stuff should be held accountable too. Everybody should be suing them for this. This is absolutely unacceptable. We're not going to be sitting in silence while this industry exterminates everything and everybody. Children with 11 atoms a kilogram of cesium start to see heart problems. So you can put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle. Think of an atom's pulse of energy every second. That's what's a Becquerel, the BQ you're seeing up there. So 11, now you can put 200 million on the head of a needle, you can't see it, so how the hell are you going to determine there's 12 there or 11 there? Because most of the atoms, and they're only acknowledged in cesium for goodness sakes, which is a gamma pulses energy around 600 feet. But there's a whole spectrum of other isotopes that you better worry about that are going to be in that same sample. You can't just blame it on cesium, see? You got to blame it on the accumulation of all the other isotopes too. It's very deceitful industry. It's not just deceitful. If you look at the industry and all the big players in the Nuclear Energy Institute, the nuclear agencies, International Atomic Energy Agencies, they got IAEA, UNSCLEAR, ERPA, the IPRC, and a host of other ones just under the UN banner, which is the military-industrial complex, right? Why is every nuclear power plant, except for a few, surrounded by farms? This is not a game. This is a weapons manufacturing, nuclear weapons. So there's over 1,000 nuclear buildings there. They had a major meltdown in 1957. They're still hemorrhaging 8 million liters a day into the Atlantic Ocean. They're surrounded by farms for over 60 years, and the fuel pools, we're taking reactor cores from other sites to this site that are sitting in fuel pools. There's fuel pools on that site right there. They don't know what's there. They haven't been inside the buildings since the late 50s. All of that is vented. And where's the heaviest, the worst, the most sadistic stuff going to end up? In your supermarkets, because they're surrounded by farms. And how is that even conceivable? How is that acceptable anyway? And just inhaling a single hot particle, because it gets in your body attacks it for the rest of your life with white blood cells. And it's pulsing energy every second, almost at the speed of light. So your body has to repair everything it damages every second. Your body can't do that. So imagine getting a lot into you. Imagine eating from these farms regularly. Imagine the supermarket is always buying the same product. And on top of that, this is where they're growing a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs, the plants for the pharmaceutical drugs. So you got radioactive pharmaceutical drugs. It's aspirins, baby aspirins, and everything else included. You got to get your acts together. That's enough of this shit. This is unacceptable. And they got the endless studies knowing that this was the stupidest idea imaginable, was building a nuclear power plant surrounded by farms. It was just 50 atoms a kilogram in adults, by the way, which is impossible to perceive. irreversible lesions in your organs. And the implications of that are the most frightening host of diseases and illnesses and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. Why is every nuclear power plant, except for a few, surrounded by farms? It's 100% and not an accident. It's 100% by design. It's 100% meant to hurt you. If you're eating food from around a nuclear power plant, go ahead and launch a lawsuit against these industries. Don't wait. You are going to win that case. I'll provide you with the documentation that is unassailable in court. You will win. You need to take that step. 100 atoms a kilogram of cesium. Why are you only talking about cesium, you sacks of shit? You horrible scum. And 100 atoms of cesium per kilogram is safe to eat. Why is everything fixated on cesium for the most part? When these 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. And if you're eating food from any of these radioactive fallout zones, you are going to have incredible health diseases and illnesses, and your children are going to be born with these little problems that hold them back all their lives, or even worse. It's doing it on purpose. It's poisoning you on purpose. The fuel pools at these sites have the reactor cores. Once you fill up or start putting reactor cores in the fuel pools, there's no containment. Everything gets vented up, the small, skinny stacks. And the idea of the farms is to get the radiation out of the local area, so the plant doesn't get called out for it down the road. And to poison you. Most importantly, it's meant to poison you in your supermarkets. It's insane. It's simply untenable. This is insane. Any of the investors and policymakers that are involved in this, at some point they're going to find these videos and come to their senses. The majority of them are going to say, holy, we didn't know that. The academics didn't tell us that. Scientists didn't tell us that. The nuclear degenerate industries didn't tell us that. We didn't know. And now that we know, we're just not going to put up with it no more. But we need to force that issue. We're in real trouble. And we don't have anybody on our side. And so we got to get it together. And we can do this. We can win this battle. We can take it to them. If I can do what I'm doing, you can do it too. If I can do it, I'm a fucking nobody. You can do it. 134 cesium, 85 strontium in fruit plants following radioactive fallout. So it's not like they don't know that the plants are going to suck up the radiation. And it's not that all of them know that the fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation into the environment. All of them know this. When are we going? We got all kinds of evil out there, but there's nothing, and I mean there's nothing worse than these fraudsters, these terrorists, these repulsive, odious monsters. It's the most carcinogenic thing that exists. It's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And this is why we call it a comedy show. If this is not a comedy, what is? It's a terrible comedy, I get that. But it's comedy where the whole world is where Trump is going to get us. It's just the real issue is always hid away from you, right? But it makes sense when you find it, doesn't it? When you start asking yourself, well, wait a second, nuclear radiation fallout is the most carcinogenic thing that exists. Why is all nuclear power plants surrounded by farms as far as they can see? They must have known the difference. Think about how evil you got to be to keep children in a nuclear wasteland and have mascots going around dressed up cartoon characters telling the children all they got to do is gargle and they'll be safe, when it's the most ludicrous assertion conceivable. What kind of friggin' idiot works for this industry? They're usually extremely educated, but they have zero self-confidence. They're literally like a comic book character where they're on the beach with a beautiful girl and they got all the money in the world, and you walk up, kick some sand in their face, they roll over and cry. The girl jumps up and grabs you by the arm, and away you go. That's literally the kind of people you talk about when they were young. Everybody in their community, in their school, called them an idiot. They went and got an education and turned into a monster because that's what they were born to be. They were born to be a monster. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram. And you can put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. How are you going to protect your loved ones? You're going to have to shut down all these fucking disease factories that are surrounded by farms. You got to do it. You got to do it. That's an easy win. And you know, when you're out there protesting, there's many ways you can do it. You can rent trucks, for instance, right, with big electrical banners, big TV screens on it. And you can go park all over the place and play these videos where they're saying they're on top of Reactor 4. And there's the picture of Reactor 4 right alongside of it. You can have placards saying, why are they pretending they're at the top of a nuclear power plant that doesn't exist? They're in a street corner for a couple of days, a bunch of people asking that question and getting a lot of people to post it up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. You change the world. You will change the world. You will change this world, I can guarantee it. You will open the world up to a conversation that the nuclear industry successfully has hid away from them for 80 years. It's you, though. You got to do it. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm getting the education. I'm putting the evidence together. I'm bringing all of it to you. I'm keeping the momentum going. But we need more people out there to win this fight. We got to bring it to them. So many smart people out there. When you find this information, it's over for the nuclear industry. Nuclear industry knows it. I mean, growing food right alongside of 1 ton bags of radiation in the middle of a nuclear wasteland, and nobody's upset about it. It's because you don't know about it. But how does it get that evil? How the fuck did it ever get to that point where they're growing food right alongside of 1 ton bags of radiation in a fucking nuclear wasteland? How does that work? How does that work? How the hell does that work? How did they fucking pull that one off? Well, they got away with it for 80 years, growing food right alongside the nuclear power plants in a nuclear wasteland. These are nuclear wastelands. All the nuclear dumps are surrounded by farms too. It's not just the power plants. There's no accident going on here. And the autoimmune illnesses and diseases that'll manifest from the radiation exposures are shocking. And translocations of 125 iodine. So, like, you see, there's actually other isotopes besides cesium-137, right? But if one of them will get assimilated into the plant, what it means, because we're talking about all atoms are the same size, so there's no way it won't get assimilated. It doesn't matter if it's gammas or alphas or betas or neutrons. It'll get assimilated into the plant. They want you to believe, oh, no, well, you know, the strontium, it acts like calcium. It ends up in your bones. It doesn't just go to your bones. It'll saturate your thyroid and your pituitary. It'll get in your lungs. It'll burn a hole through your lungs. It'll breach the the blood. It'll end up anywhere in your body. There's no limit to it. But it does like the bones, but that's not the only spot it's going to end up. But that's the narrative they've been feeding you for so long. Just to lull you into complacency. It'll get assimilated into the plant. You eat it, it might 60% of it might end up in your bones where it mutates, or your skeleton where it mutates your stem cells. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Except for a couple. Why did the majority of the time they only talk about cesium? Because you got to worry about at least 1,000 other isotopes. It can't travel by itself. It can't just be cesium. If you got cesium, you got to have uranium, plutonium, and radiation. The biggest byproduct of radiative fuel rods is the curium isotopes. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? And water, the freshest water. And the amount of water, they need 1 million gallons a minute for each of the reactors. 1 million gallons a minute. That's 4,500 tons. That's 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks full of water every minute in that little river. And then they're legally allowed to burn it in incinerators and release it directly into the river because no one's paid any attention. No one's ever challenged them. They've changed constitutional laws in increments over decades so that the numbers they're releasing are just, this is terrorism. These are dirty bombs every 20 minutes, just into the rivers and to the oceans. They're a curse on a planet. Just a single plant is an actual curse on the entire planet. We got over 400 and over 1,000 fuel pools hemorrhaging radiation into your ear. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? How can we sit in silence? They got endless studies showing that food sucks up the radiation, so why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms, except for a couple? Don't be fooled by paid industry consultants. Low doses of ionizing radiation do cause cancers and heart problems, liver problems, and fatal heart problems, and lung and respiratory and pituitary and thyroid and adrenaline. And the list is very long. Your immune system is compromised. Now you're more susceptible to all kinds of pathogens and viruses. What are we going to do about it? Are we just going to sit in silence? I'm not. Why is this plant surrounded by farms right up to the borders? Those tall, skinny stacks are hemorrhaging radiation. Not them. Them, the tall, skinny ones. They're hemorrhaging radiation on a scale, just because you can't see it, I made it visible for you in these pictures. That's what I'm trying to do. But it's actually worse than what you're looking at. And all of these are pulsing energy almost at the speed of light. They hit each other and they reflect. Almost the speed of light, almost the speed of light. When they hit each other, they bounce. Almost hitting each other, just a braking effect. They'll even change direction. It's known as a X-ray. That's what we refer to it as. And it's causing full body X-rays. What you're looking at right there is just smorgasbord of isotopes coming out of these facilities going into your food. But it's a full body X-ray in that ecosystem. It's a despicable industry. It's a sadistic, horrific, monstrous, eco-terrorist industry. This is perpetual eco-terrorism. Like, you can't really call them like gangsters. You can't call them. You can't just use the average words. You can't say it's objectionable or objectionable or unworthy, or you got to call them terrorists and monsters and sadistic demons and evil scum, because that's what is applicable. You can't describe them like you would describe a normal shithead. Oh, experimentally determined translocations 134 cesiums in potatoes. Well, if it goes in potatoes, it's going to go in all the crop too, isn't it? If it goes into the meadow ecosystem, then it can easily get assimilated into the food system. Even if the plants don't uptake it, there's so much radiation coming out that covers the plants. This is terrorism of the worst degree. There's over 1,000 fuel pools worldwide hemorrhaging radiation into the farmlands. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no containment. And the studies already exist. There's so many of them. I should change them all the time by rights. There's so many of them. How can you deny that this is a thing? And everywhere you look, you see this terrorism industry. But nothing more so than Fukushima. Grown food alongside of 1-ton bags of radiation. This is, how is this not a crime? Because it's not a crime. And the Congress and Parliament doesn't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation, so therefore they do it. Well, it's not against the law. It's the justification is the equivalent of an alien coming to your planet and trying to justify eating you for supper. Well, on our planet we eat humans, so come on over here, you little bastard. These are terrorists. That's the best way to describe a nuclear power plant is as a terrorist. A big fucking terrorist in our country plopped down in the middle of all the farmland and spewing out poison, and we're still supposed to sell it to you and poison you and pretend that we're good people. Like, here's one of them right there. Look, this is a terrorist. Madison Hilly. She's a campaign for a green nuclear deal. It's a green nuclear radioactive earth wasteland deal is what it really is. But if she tries, right there, she's not really trying to smile because she knows that once she opens her fucking teeth up, then you start saying, what the fuck is this? Hi, Daddy, I love you. Get the fuck away from me, you little creature. Speaking of creatures, from the Breakthrough Institute. A real-life monster, eh? They almost look normal. He doesn't he? He looks almost normal. She doesn't, but he almost looks normal, but they're not. Operator says steam seen at direct Japan nuclear power plant, but no change in the radiation levels. This is July the 18th, 2013 story that it was the China syndrome. It cracked the earth open and steam was coming out of the ground. This is at 10 sieverts per hour. Because we actually have the evidence on it. But here's the story to cover it up. Steam or vapors appear to be coming from a damaged reactor buildings. And the plant operator said radiation levels were steady. The plant operator is not a nuclear expert. They're just an operator. They don't build nuclear reactors. They don't build fuel pools. They don't make fuel. They don't have any expertise whatsoever. They had no right to exist once they had a nuclear meltdown. A nuclear meltdown is not like a normal, any other kind of industrial accident. It contaminates the entire planet. Wipes out oceans. And we've had the mother of all. And so the idea was to poison you with so much radiation you're incapable of comprehending it or flushing it out on your own. Now, I've got it flushed out for you, and you can extrapolate. Once you learn this stuff, it's not very hard to learn. Once you extrapolate or learn on this, you can extrapolate things on your own. Particularly lawsuits. You got to learn how to sue this industries and nuclear power plants immediately. We got to start up another website, a campaign to sue nuclear power plants for genocide. I like it. Tokyo Electric Power Company said the reactor's spent fuel pool is stable. Like, what are you talking about? They were all gone on day 6. The number 3 reactor. You're going to inject water into the number 3 reactor. Do you know? Well, let's have a look at number 3, shall we? 2013, that's what it looked like. Where's the reactor? It was at the top of the building. Where's the top of the building? That's about 1/4 of the building. Where's the other 3/4 of the building? Because the reactors and the fuel pools were in the top 4 parts. There's 4 parts to this building. That's 1 part there, and that's almost a part here of reactor 4. And so if you stack them 4 times high, you're close to the 190 feet that the buildings originally were. The fuel pools were at the top of both of the buildings. There is no fuel pools. Number 3 reactor is one of the Fukushima plants that suffered a core meltdown. Let's have a look at it again. Did that have a core meltdown? Anybody think that was a core meltdown? Here's what the building should look like. At the very top of the building is the reactor core and the fuel pools. Guess where they're not? They're not in that building. Now, reactor 3 was a special one. The fuel pool can't exist because she went kapop. It ejected the reactor cores and the fuel pools out of the buildings. And you were in real danger. You need to fight back. If you got children, you need to get educated and go to war against this industry. If you care about birds and bees and puppy dogs and apples and trees, you need to go to war against this kooky fucking industry. This coward industry. It's an industry of cowards on top of that. Which is one of the most intriguing things, I think, is how many cowards can get together in one industry. And it's like they hung a shingle out and said, we want only cowards. Got to get an education, but we'll take you. Here we go. Let's keep it rolling here. Because these shows are going to be short on Fridays and Saturdays. And short in my world is different than short in most people's worlds. Most people's worlds are short as 2 or 3 minutes. I can't possibly convey the urgency in 2 or 3 minutes and justify it. Because a lot of people, you might only get them once in the video. So you need to just to overwhelm them with documentation information so that their brain goes, how come? I don't understand it. I do, maybe. I don't know. Why the average person's brain doesn't go, ka-ching, we got to attack this industry. This is outrageous. It's so blatantly, like, saying that nothing got out of these buildings. There's got to be a reason that they would say something like that. And the reason is because it's lethal to everything with replicating cells. Thousands of people have been unable to return to their homes near the plant because the radiation levels are still high. You know, because it blew the fuck up, covered the whole planet in a brutal and sustained for millions of years radioactive plume. And everybody like, fucking Trump, boy. I start up a Twitter account and yell about him every day. I'm just using him as one of the many distractions. Now, mind you, I would rather have Trump than fucking Biden or whatever that friggin' vice president is. What the hell is up with that crazy lady? Radiation from Japan reactors affecting the food in nearby farms. You know, Israel and Iran. Iran says they're going to attack Israel. And the last time, and the only time that Iran attacked Israel was recent, right? It was a month and a half ago or something. And Israel now has been in a war for so long, they're going to have the Americans and the British and whoever else to help defend themselves. But that's not going to win the battle. And they want that, right? They want that war. And Fukushima is one of the reasons why we're seeing this happen. They want you looking everywhere but at the species. They don't want you to look at the species and comprehend what they got done to you. That's a big no, thank you, mister. And let me explain that one more time to you. Because that is important. There we go. So Japan, on top of that, released so much radiation into the Pacific Ocean. All nuclear power plants do, don't they? They release so much radiation into the ocean and into the air. This is the airborne radiation. I'll move it ahead. This is just 16 days of radioactive fallout. So when they tell you it takes 6 years to cover
studies
the
from
whole
last
ocean,
year indicate that radioactive water will contaminate the entire Pacific Ocean in just 6 years. Kim Min-ji reports.
This graphic shows the gradual contamination of the Pacific Ocean due to leaks of radioactive water from the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan. The simulation, which was run by a German marine research institute, shows the entire Pacific waters being polluted by radioactive water.
But it covered the whole planet. And this is the French's model. That's cesium-137, 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. Now, cesium pulses energy 600 feet every second. So just that on its own would be a catastrophic event, an actual event. We have the numbers on many different isotopes. This is the xenon-133. This was the iodine-131. There's 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine-129. And so that's 4 isotopes I just showed you of studies acknowledging that showed up. We went out because of the evidence and gathered up and done the whole coastline for 6 years. And what we discovered was just heartbreaking, was that the species are essentially now terminated, exterminated. This is millions of years of genetic superior selection. And these are pictures from the research expedition. And we repeated it for year after year to see if the species returned. The species to your left didn't return. And it's very well known that the 7,500 7,000 highly visible species. Now the plumes, of course, there's many different. This one was the Norwegian Institute of Air Research for xenon-133 or krypton-85, I can't remember. And the species to your left were studied by all the universities in North America, basically. And so there was incredible diversity. It's just wonderful, amazing, beautiful. 700 algae. There was all the scallops and abalones and urchins. There was all the snails and periwinkles, the mollusk. There was the oysters, the razorback clams, the little necks, the manillas. There was the gooey ducks. There was this absurd diversity, incredible. There was 84 species of sponges. There was around 78 species of starfish. There was around 80 species of sea anemones. And all the species in each of these came in multiple vibrant colors. It was paradise in 2011. And then Fukushima showed up, and now it looks like this is stripped. You'll starve to death if you shipwreck anywhere on the coast. When normally you couldn't even walk on the coast because there was so much life. We know. We went and done it year after year. They didn't pretend that they're in the fuel pools on reactor cores because it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine, okay? They done it because it's the most lethal thing to everything with replicating cells. And it's a good time, and it's the right time to make a stand against this industry. It's the right time to come out and push back against an industry whose time is long come and gone and didn't have a right to exist in the first place. I'm Dana. I hope you had a great day. Today, tomorrow, the next day. We'll see everybody tomorrow night for the regular time, 10 p.m. And we're going to do it again. We are going to war against this industry. I hope you'll join us. I hope you have a great day and a great night. Take care, everybody.